What's going on, everyone? It's the Bearded One back with another beer review. And tonight we're doing a special release from Yazoo Brewery, part of the Embrace the Funk series that they do. And this one is a dark assortment rum. I'm not sure if that's the name or if it's Embrace the Funk dark assortment rum. Couldn't tell you. I'm not from Nashville, so I'm not privy to the scene there, and I'm not accustomed to the brewery. I love the brewery. I've been there 3 times. This past weekend, I went up there on a trip. It was a birthday trip for one of my friends. You know, we like to go. We like to look at comic books and other things. You know, just palling around, having a good time in Nashville. And Yazoo has become a place I like to stop at in Nashville. And there's another beer that they have that I picked up, one of their flagship beers. I plan on reviewing that pretty soon. And then I've never had an Embrace the Funk beer, so I had to pick one up, and I chose their rum variant. And this one is a base strong dark ale fermented with Brettanomyces and souring bacteria, aged in assorted oak barrels for 16 months to showcase the unique influence of each spirit. So that's that. And then, if you don't mind, I'd like to read a little bit more on Embrace the Funk. I thought Embrace the Funk was a specific beer, and then they would use Embrace the Funk as a base for everything else. But I think Embrace the Funk is more or less branding for their Cellared series, which makes sense because they use the Let me just say that again before I screw it up. Brettanomyces. So they use that yeast, and then they use souring microbes in various recipes, which would make sense for the Embrace the Funk name. I did some reading up on Brettanomyces prior to this video, and Brettanomyces is a yeast strain that is commonly found on fruit skins like grapes. I read that in a Randy Mosher book, and it like blew my mind. Grape skins, that waxy white material on a grape skin is brewer's yeast, and could typically be Brettanomyces. It's usually a wild strain, not something we cultivated in a lab, which, because of modern technology, we probably have by now cultivated Brettanomyces, and we grow our own Brettanomyces now. So it's not like in the old days where when brewers were brewing a Goes or a Lambic, they would just like open a barn door and let the Brettanomyces in the air kind of work its magic in the beer. You know, it's 2020, so we have much more sophisticated brewing practices, and so that brings us to this, the Embrace the Funk series. And so their first release of the series was named Wild Child in 2012. And then also they have been served at Savor in New York. I don't know what Savor in New York means, but they're obviously proud enough of it to feature it in the restaurant, or feature it on the website. Excuse me, brain fart. And then What the Funk in Denver in 2014, and then various other things as well. But yeah, it's just a combination of them using the wild yeast and souring microbes, and then they also age them in casks, which this, I would assume, was aged in a rum cask. One last thing before we get into the beer, we'll see how much. Yeah, they're not going to tell me, so I do not know the IBUs. I don't know the alcohol percentage of this. I would garner to say this is around a 10%, beer, being a base strong dark ale, and I've had two strong dark ales, or excuse me, not strong dark ales. I've had two old ales, and I would assume this is around that same idea. Anyways, all right, enough rambling. Let's get into this special beer. I've already taken the pleasure, if you will, of taking off the wax so that we don't have to sit here and watch me peel wax off for a couple minutes. I love that smell. So it's coming. It kind of looks like a old ale. We'll just put that right there, and then I'll put the logo right there so you can see the logo. Not a lot of head, which I didn't think so. In these strong ales and old ales, I find the head to not be very retentive. It dissipated fairly quick. This beer's really dark. I don't want to say it's black. It's just a very, very dark brown, for sure. Yeah, when I put it up to the light, I can tell it's of the utmost darkest black. Brown color. I'm not seeing a lot of volatility as far as the carbonation and bubbles go. Seems like a very mellowed out beer in terms of carbonation. Wait a minute, as I look a little closer, I can see the occasional bubble float to the top. I'm seeing alcohol legs, but since I poured it pretty tall, I can't really tell you how powerful the legs are. Yeah, this definitely reminds me of an old ale anyways. I'm getting a lot of dark fruits here. I hear people call them stone fruits. I need to look up what stone fruits are commonly referred as. Which fruits are commonly referred to as stone fruits. But yeah, like the raisins and the dates, plums. I'm definitely getting the rum presence in here. Some dark caramel malts are in here as well. I don't get any roast. If they used any of the real dark malts, I don't think they roasted this very much. Yeah, very rich, complex aroma. I like it. I like it. It smells like a dark, strong ale. Goodness gracious, there's a lot going on here. Some things that I couldn't pick up on in the aroma. The first thing that really hit me is they obviously used, and like I said, the Embrace the Funk is more of their branding, I think. I think they cellar a lot of these different kinds of beers and then just put it under the Embrace the Funk umbrella. But this specific one, I can tell they used the souring microbes. That's the first thing that made my eyes pop. It was just almost a shock. Not in a bad way. It was just really surprising. I wasn't expecting them to have used souring microbes. Sorry, I brain farted there. So yeah, it's really a soured beer, and just kind of underneath all that sour, the tart factor, which it's not. I wouldn't say it's got a puckering quality to it. It's just a really good, solid base sour. If you're a fan of this, I think this is a well-rounded souring factor. It's not real weak and tart like a Goza would be, and then it's just not pungent where I'm having to kind of power through it at the same time. So, sorry, there's just a lot going on in this beer, and so I'm having to wrap my mind around it. I feel like maybe they could have used, um, I don't want to say tropical fruits. I want to say maybe there's a touch of some citric flavor going on in here. Um, just to kind of pair with that souring. I don't know if that's just kind of my brain assuming there's citrus in here because of the souring as well. I think maybe that could be a factor. Um, but underneath that souring, when I get through the souring, I get uh, that rum and the dark fruits mostly coming off as like a raisin and a plum, not plum, a raisin and a date type thing going on. It's got an acidic quality to it as well, so I think maybe that's where I almost want to say there's some citrus in here, but it plays really well with those dark fruits, and then I really have to look for it. But kind of on the end as it's drying, I can tell there's that caramel. Yeah, the caramel, and then a touch of that Brettanomyces. Um, at least what I perceive, what I've read up on as Brettanomyces, what I've tasted in a lambic, and I've that same flavor profile that Brettanomyces has. I've tasted it in another beer, and I can't remember which one, but based on those two beers, I feel like I'm getting that wild, funky Brettanomyces right on the tail end. But again, it's just a lot of souring here. Um, it really caught me off guard because you don't get that on the nose, and it was just a wild surprise. This is a funky beer for sure. Uh, Let me go in for one last taste, and then I'll close it out with some closing comments, and maybe I'll give a reference, and then we'll give a grade. So this is one of the funkiest, most complex beers I think I've ever had. There's just a lot going on here. There's souring, there's that Brettanomyces, there's that old ale, caramel, plum, raisin, date thing going on as well. It's kind of semi-drying at the end to where you want another sip. I don't know the alcoholic content of this beer, but I would garner to say I was wrong about it being 10%. This thing, it does not drink like a 10%. And so if it is anything over, let's say 7%, I feel like they have hidden alcohol very well. But with so much going on, obviously it would be hidden. There's an acidic thing going on that kind of makes me want to say there's citrus fruits in here. But I just feel like that's a cop-out for sours sometimes because just because something is soured doesn't necessarily mean there's citrus in there. So yeah, I just want to say they just use sour microbes. We'll just stick to that because I can't actually say in good faith there's citrus fruits in here. I am starting to feel something in my head, so I think there's some alcohol in here. It's just very well masked. There's a lot going on in this beer. I would not, if you live in Nashville and you can get hold of this beer, if you're not familiar with craft beer, if you don't have a developed palate, you're either A, not going to like this beer, or B, you're really going to miss a lot of the nuance on the back end of this beer, and this beer is going to fall short for you. And I would hate that, so I'm not sure I could recommend this beer to like beginners and novices. If you're a fan of sours, definitely try this beer. The old ales, the dark strong ale crowd, definitely give this a try. If you're into like the caramel malty stuff, and you like the dark tree stone fruits in your beer, give it a whirl. You might like it. I like the beer is even lingering as of, I took my last sip, a minute or two ago, and there's still like this faint lingering flavor on this beer. I like it. There's a lot going on this beer. I don't feel like on the palate I got the rum and the wood though, and so that kind of knocks this beer down a little bit for me. However, I can appreciate what they did, and trying this beer definitely has me excited to try more. When I go back to Yazoo, and I know I'll visit Yazoo again, they're only about 2 hours north of me. I will be picking up another bottle of Embrace the Funk. Probably not this beer, but this beer has been a wonderful first impression on the series to me. I'm gonna have to give it a 4.5 out of 5. I feel like the rum and the wood kind of got lost in everything, and there's just a little bit too much sourness for me to where I kind of have to sit and concentrate and think about this beer to really get the full experience for me. And while I don't necessarily need for a master brewer to hold my hand and make everything easy for me, I do enjoy nuance. I just kind of cut it down from a world-class beer for me anyways. Nevertheless, I really love how the dark fruits and the souring microbes really play off of each other. That was a fun experience for me. I think that's about all I got, guys. Another review in the books. Yazoo Brewery, Embrace the Funk, dark assortment, rum, 4.5 out of 5. Until next time, guys. Cheers.